everybody. How's it going? For some reason, my camera is split screen. I don't know why. So let's see if I can change that here in just a second. There we go. Hey, everybody. How are you? I wanted to get started on my first live stream in a while. Haven't jumped on in a bit, and I'm going to start. I really want to start getting into this and trying to do it a little bit more frequently. Looks like turn that off. See if I have any comments going here. Nothing quite yet, but that's okay. So welcome back to my live stream here at Jeff Bull Tech. With these streams, I really want to spend time sort of focusing on making sure that I should say talking about topics kind of in leadership, topics as we're thinking more about work and what the new work situation looks like, that sort of thing. Because I think everybody right now has a tendency to, be very inward thinking when it comes to how we're going back to work, how we're engaging with people, how we're talking to them, etc. And we're not necessarily as cognizant of, let me turn my volume back up here, as cognizant of those human interactions, going back to previous times that I have, worked in corporate offices on a regular basis. And if my audio level is not loud enough, please definitely let me know. It seems like it's kind of quiet for some reason. So we'll test that out. I'll bring this down a little bit. Anyway, let me know if my audio is not doing good. When I've been in corporate situations in the past, what I have noticed is that there's a lot of sort of colloquialisms and other wording that is used on a regular basis that may or may not be great for everybody around to hear or make them feel good. And I never really noticed it or never paid attention to it as much because I was young and I just didn't have the experience. But fast forward till now, in the current role that I'm in, as I'm thinking more about how to interact with people, what makes them feel positive, what makes them feel good in their role or good every day at work. One of the key things that I have decided I really want to focus on is better understanding how to communicate with people effectively. And there's a lot in that. And I'm going to try to cover a number of those things, these types of topics over the next, few live streams. The one I want to focus on today is something that came up recently. And, with a lot of the challenges in the States today, with discrimination and biases and other things, the term microaggressions came up. And I had never heard of it before, so I spent a little bit of time trying to understand it a little bit more. And I'm not going to claim to be any sort of expert. That said, today I really want to focus on talking about what a microaggression is, how ingrained they are in all of our language and what we do every day, and why it can be so negative to the people on the receiving end. So to start with, if you have questions, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. If you have questions for anyone joining the live stream, please post them in the comments below. I'd be happy to respond to them live, or comments on the side, I guess, wherever they are. I'd be happy to respond to them live, have a dialogue about this, and just learn a bit more about, your experiences with them, what they look like, and try to understand this topic better. Because I really want this to be sort of a learning experience for everybody, not just me pontificating about a subject. Okay, so a microaggression, what are they? So there's a lot of ways to explain sort of what I'm pulling some notes up, by the way, so I am paying attention, but I think there's a lot of ways to explain what a microaggression is, but the short version is these are small bits of communication in our language today, wording, phrases, things that we say that to an individual saying them may feel innocuous or like we're being genuine or what have you. They come across, whether consciously or subconsciously for a group of people or an individual, as aggressive behavior or demeaning or something that marginalizes those people. And I'm going to go through two or three examples in this live stream, and I want to hear others from other people as you understand them. The thing to remember about what these are, I want this to be a safe conversation for everybody. So I want anyone out there watching this live stream to really put their mindset into the position of, this isn't the PC police. I actually really despise that term. There's no such thing as the PC police. We should always be thinking about the words that we use. Words are important because they have distinct meaning. And the words that we use in conversation, whether it be as a people leader of other people and we run a team, whether it be interactions you have with friends or family or people you've never met before, the words that you use make a difference in the communication style and the communication effectiveness that you have with those people and the relationships you're going to build. And knowing what those words mean doesn't mean I'm telling you to stop saying something. I just want to help educate everyone to what words and these microaggressions, what they actually mean, what the root of them are, and the impact it can have on someone else. You need to decide as a person whether you're going to continue to use them or not. I really want everyone to be able to understand where these things come from and what they can mean to a group of people when you say them, whether you're saying it directly to somebody or whether you are saying it to a group and someone hears it. Either way, there's an impact to that. So let's talk about a couple examples. The first one I want to go through is, I think, touches on a lot of important things for women in general. Me personally, as I'm learning more about this and wanting to understand what it means, but there's a lot of subtleties to it. The first one is, and this is a term I think a statement people have heard in the past, which is, my boss is crazy. And usually in reference to a female boss, female supervisor, my boss is crazy, or my boss is just being hysterical. On the surface, most people hearing this are like, what do you mean? I probably have said that before when my supervisor, be it male or female, is seemingly reacting to something in a way that I think they're either reacting too much to or reacting to something that I think is innocuous or whatever it happens to be. But the terms, oh, my boss is crazy, or she's just being hysterical, whatever that happens to look like, oftentimes in reference to a supervisor. So I want to talk a bit about what that means. There's two parts of this. There's two different words, and they both have distinct meaning. Let's talk about the hysterical one for a minute, because I think that's a little more clear and specific. I think both have distinct meaning, but the hysterical word is a little more clear and specific. This is something to be aware of. The term hysterical, I'm going to try to pull up the exact definition because I want to be able to read it to you so it makes more sense. And let me try to find it in my notes here. But the term hysterical, the word hysterical actually comes from a very specific meaning. And it has distinct meaning for women in particular, and I'll explain why. So I believe the background on the word hysterical is, where's the word here? The word hysterical actually comes from the Greek word hystera, meaning uterus. It literally means the word uterus in Greek, signifying that this so-called reference you're making is to something that is clearly and specifically to women. Now, most women probably know this. I won't assume all, but many or most women probably know that already, or something similar to that. I would bet most men had no idea about that. Here's why that's important. If you're using the term hysterical to reference a woman, what you are referencing in actuality is a very old term that referred to a woman's body part. And that's not the important piece. What's important about that is you are inadvertently stating that this problem that you see a woman having is unique to a woman, and probably to that woman specifically. Meaning that somehow this issue or this challenge, it's only happening because she's a woman. So somehow something is then wrong with her because she's a woman. I want you to think about that for a minute. That's really important. It's a really important thing to keep in mind, that what you're saying, even whether you intend it to or not, will be taken by women as something they are doing as a woman is bad or is wrong, and they shouldn't feel positive about that. That's what to remember. Using the term hysterical has a very denigrating or action effect on women specifically, and men probably don't know that. The other half of this is the word crazy. I don't like that term in general. I don't use it at home. We've actually started, I don't like the term crazy or insane or nuts. Trying to actually here at home, my wife and I are trying to eradicate that from anything that we say, especially around our 4.5-year-old. We use the term wild. And I don't mean wild like someone's being wild. I mean, oftentimes you'll hear it used and like you see something off the wall or strange on TV and you go, oh, that's crazy. You may think that there's nothing wrong with that. We try to use those terms, oh, wow, that's so wild. Meaning it's just out there. It's just different. It's interesting. We've never experienced it before. Like being in the wild. It's something we've never experienced before. What I want to really focus on the word crazy, and the reason I don't like it, my company specifically, but in general, I think understanding that the term crazy, insane, nuts, all of these are referring to people with mental health issues. That's where they stem from. And in the past, it has been looked down upon, and you can agree with it or disagree with it, but using those terms has more often than not been a way to identify somebody who is not mentally healthy or is having mental challenges with their mind that need to be addressed. And in the past, we've never really focused on as a society making sure those people are healthy and getting the care and the treatment that they need to become healthy people mentally. All of us should pay attention to our mental health. That's an important thing. To call somebody crazy or nuts or insane is, again, to point out something that a specific person is doing and that turning that challenge that they're having in their mind into something negative, that somehow they are bad or they are wrong because they're having some challenges. So let me ask you a challenging question. If you were listening to this and your first thought is, Jeff, come on, dude, we can't be the PC police. And that's not what I mean by those words. I'm not saying you do. What I am saying, and I want you to try to understand, is either people with challenges or who are working through situations where they may be having mental issues. I don't mean major diseases necessarily. Yes, those are included. The schizophrenias and things like that, where really big things are happening for them. Those are its own class. We shouldn't use those words either in those contexts. But I mean anyone who might be dealing with mild depression or any sort of form of depression or a family issue, things that are going on in their mind that they're really struggling with, and these emotions they don't know how to categorize, they don't know how to deal with. To reference them as crazy, nuts, insane, anything like that, immediately puts a negative context on that thing they're going through, which in the past has made people not want to ever seek help or even ask for help because it's made to be negative. They're going to be labeled as crazy, nuts, insane, what have you, which is all made to make them feel negative, whether you intend it to or not. I want just people to understand. I want all of you to understand what those words mean and the impact they can have on people in general. So just understand that we don't use it at home. We're trying to be very cognizant. The company I work for has an amazing culture where we don't use those terms, and we encourage anyone who needs any sort of help, or just wants to be mentally healthy to reach out to groups we have internally to help them with that, because it's important that we're all mentally healthy all the time. No time more importantly than right now, not just because of COVID and shelter in place. That's important, but also because of all the racial tensions and discrimination happening. There's a lot of people in our country who have felt marginalized and looked down upon for generations upon hundreds of years. Understanding the words that we use is important. So I just want to thank everyone again for joining. I really appreciate it. We're talking about microaggressions today. And the next one that I wanted to go through I want to go through is, this is one of my favorites. And I say favorites because it drives me nuts. I used to be a perpetrator of this. I'm trying to be better at it personally, and I want to understand it. And it's the term of this. Wow, your name is so hard to pronounce. Have you ever found yourself in a meeting around somebody who is not of the same ethnicity as you, or racial background, or diverse or background as you, from whatever country your family comes from, whether it's, it doesn't matter, wherever they come from. For some reason, their name is unusual to you because you're not used to it. Clearly, I'm a middle-aged white guy, so the names I'm used to in the culture and the society that I grew up in a lot of cases, were very generic Caucasian names. But what if somebody is from a culture or a background that isn't what you are from, and you can't necessarily pronounce it? I've heard that term before. I've heard someone say to another person in a room that I'm in, "Oh, your name is so hard to pronounce." I will be honest with you, the way I thought about it was, oh, that person's being transparent. They're being obvious. They want to understand. Here's the challenge. When you say something like your name is hard to pronounce, while you may not mean anything negative by it, what you are telling that person is, there is something wrong with your name. I can't figure it out. Clearly, since I can't figure it out, something is wrong. That is going to make a person feel bad. Whether they admit it on the surface or they can't even acknowledge it because they're not really thinking about it, it inherently is going to make them feel negative about their name. Who wants to feel negative about their own name? Should anybody ever feel negative about what their name is? No, God, of course not. It's your name. It's the first thing that you should be self-confident about. So maybe you would ask, Jeff, but I can't pronounce. I work with a lot of people who have names that are very different than mine, and I don't know how to pronounce them all. That's okay. And you're not going to. Nobody is expecting you to. I work with a lot of diverse people at the company that I'm employed by. And there's a lot of people with names from backgrounds that I simply don't know how to pronounce. Is that wrong? Of course not. There's nothing wrong with that. Is the question to ask, though, your name is so hard to pronounce, or that statement? No. There's more effective ways. There are more compassionate ways. The name is say, oh, that's a really interesting name. I'm sure there's better ways to do this. I don't have all the answers. What I will say is, you don't have to tell them their name. I don't know how to pronounce your name. You don't even have to comment on the uniqueness of their name. What you can simply say is, oh, how do you pronounce your name? Someone introduces themselves, hi. And you say, how do I pronounce your name? And ask them. That's okay to ask. Commenting on the quality of their name, or asking questions about its background, or stating that it's hard to pronounce, all that is going to do is make the person feel like they are different. Make them feel like they are different from everybody else in the room. Nobody wants to feel like they're not part of the group. By doing this and other actions similar to that, you're going to make someone feel like they're not a part of the group that you're in. That is not a good thing. Nobody wants to feel left out. And doing that, especially with a work team, but in many other contexts as well, it's not great. Don't do that. So I know I'm running a little bit long on time today. I didn't really want to go super long. I've gone through 2 microaggressions I think are really good to call out. The first one was my boss is crazy, or she's hysterical, that realm, as well as your name is so hard to pronounce. There's a lot of others. I've read several articles and a lot of research papers on a variety of these different ones that exist out there. I would love to hear from all of you others that are out there and what they mean and why they're important to understand before going back into your next meeting or social engagement. I think this is an important topic. We can all learn to better use the words, not just better use the words that we have, more importantly, understand what those words mean. I will never tell someone, other than clear words you should never use, and I think we all know what those are. I hope all of us know what those are. I shouldn't have to say that out loud. There's many racial words and discriminatory words out there that should never, ever be used. Ever, period. Full stop. Most of the other words and statements that we tend to put out there, my request of people, my request of all of you, my request of myself is to simply try to understand what they mean so that when we go into the next scenario, we can be more intentional. There's the key. Be intentional about the wording you use with other human beings to try to elicit the relationship and the engagement you want to have with those people. Because think about yourself in that position. Would you really want somebody saying something very similar to you? How would it actually make you feel? I don't mean sit back and go, whatever, Jeff, I'm fine. Yeah, whatever. Put that stuff aside for a minute. I want you to be honest with yourself. Would you really like somebody calling you out and me saying, oh, wow, that's super new. You don't have any hair, Jeff. Wow, that's really interesting. Huh, how'd you go bald? But maybe I wouldn't care. Maybe I wouldn't act like I care. But it's going to have an effect on me subconsciously. Does anybody really want to be called out like that in front of a group? Just think about that for a bit. Listen, everybody, I appreciate you so much. This is my first in a series of live streams I plan to continue to do to talk a lot about leadership, the language we use, how we interact with people. And then I'm also going to be doing a lot more work on time management and day planning and things like that. So I would love you to watch and keep up. Definitely contribute in the comments. So hit subscribe below to the channel if you'd like to keep up with more content I do here. A thumbs up to any video that I have really does help that video kind of get boosted up. And so more folks can join in the conversation with myself and with you. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much again for chiming in. And I'll talk to you all real soon. Have a good afternoon. Bye.